Namaste and hello. Welcome to the Art of Yoga Project. My name is Lynn, and thank you for coming to your mat today to practice yoga with me. Today's class has a theme of celebrating diversity. And with that theme, we're going to work towards a very challenging pose for some of us called Bakasana Crow Pose or Crane Pose. And so I'd like you to think for a moment, so try to take your mind off the fear of trying this new pose, and instead just think for a moment about the strength that you'll build and about the strength not just in your physical body but in your mind as you practice and prepare for it. Okay, so don't always jump straight ahead to the final pose like, oh, I have to do the full pose. Think about the little steps, the progress, and the journey along the way. So just for a moment, set aside judgment of yourself, your past self, and your future self. And just for the present moment, can you think of the possibility that you could possibly try the pose? Okay, and I'll offer you some steps to get there, some props, and different ways to modify the pose, and how to learn how to come into it gradually. All right? So with poses like this, there's always some people who find it very easy and come right into the full pose, and others that take a long time. It took me about 7 years to figure out crow pose. So really, let's try to keep an open mind, encourage one another, and set aside judgment in the classroom. So trying not to compare yourself with anyone else around you, and celebrating the diversity that all of our crow poses are going to look different. All of our bodies are different, and just keeping in mind that we are all strengthening our minds and our bodies together with this practice. Okay, so as we begin the practice, just finding a comfortable seated position. You could be cross-legged like I am. I'm going to slide back so you can see me better. If you're sitting cross-legged, change your crisscross and just try to sit the opposite way of how you naturally cross. And if you don't want to be cross-legged, you could come onto your knees. We're just going to ground and center ourselves. So taking a few breaths, sitting up tall, grounding the parts of the body that are on the floor. Feel how they contact the floor. And then draw your chin down slightly, lengthen the back of the neck. And take a deep inhale through the nose, exhale just sighing out of the mouth. So before we begin the practice, I'd like us just to do what's called a rectangle breath. So if you can visualize a rectangle, it's got 2 long sides and 2 short sides. So if some of you have paper and pencil, you could draw a rectangle. I'm just going to draw one in the air, which you could also do with me if you'd like. So just taking your finger and going up the short side, you're going to inhale as you go up, and then exhale as you come across the long side. Inhale as you go down the short side, and then exhale across the long side. So keeping your hands down, visualize this rectangle, and we'll go through another round of breath. So inhale the short side, exhale the long side. 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 And returning back to normal breathing now. Okay, so to prepare for Bakasana pose, it is an arm balance We want to warm up our shoulders properly. We want to warm up our wrists and also warm up the core, because we use our core strength to practice lifting ourselves up. So let's come onto our backs first, okay? And we'll just think about crow pose on your back for a moment. All right, so bending the knees and bringing the soles of the feet together. Lift the feet up, but keep the feet together as you start to open your knees just a little. And you can have your hands on your knees. And then as you inhale, exhale, start to lift your head and shoulders off the floor, and you'll feel your abdominals start to engage. And then maybe start to lift the buttocks off the floor as if you were trying to bring your knees up to where your armpits are. Okay? So inhale, rest down. Exhale, lifting the backs of tips of your shoulder blades off the floor, and maybe bringing your knees closer to your shoulders or your armpits. Okay, one more time. Inhale, as you exhale, feel the belly draw in. You might feel some shaking in your tummy. And then exhale, relax. So if you wanted to think of this as crow pose on your back, you would bring your hands like pretend like the ceiling is the floor, and flex your wrists, bend your wrists, spread your fingers, and then as you start to lift your chest up off the floor, bend your elbows and try to bring your shins or your knees. Think of bringing your knees up to the backs of your arms or your shins onto your elbows, okay? And so this is like doing crow pose on the floor, lying on your back. So inhale as you come down and exhale as you come up. You might even be able to hold it and press your shins into your elbows and squeeze your knees against your upper arms. Good. And then come back down. So take an inhale as you exhale, draw the knees into the chest and roll onto your right side and press yourself up to seated. Okay, so that was crow pose on your back. So to prepare for crow pose in the arm balance, first let's just take a seated position here. And we'll do just a little bit of seated cat-cow. So you're gonna round your back, bring your chin towards your chest as you exhale. And as you inhale, start to lift the chest, draw the shoulders down, maybe lift the chin and smile. Inhale as you lift up, exhale as you round your back. Okay, a couple more breaths. Inhale as you lift up, smile, if you like, cheesy grin. Exhale as you round the back. Okay, this is really good for your neck as well. If you have issues with your neck, draw the shoulders down, lift the chin, and then come back to center. So we're gonna come onto all fours and just take care of the wrists. So you always wanna warm up your wrists before you do this pose. So bring your hands right in front of your knees, turn them upside down so the knuckles of your hands are on the ground. Inhale, bend the elbows. Exhale, straighten the arms and press the backs of your hands into the floor. Inhale, bend. Exhale, straighten. 2 more. Good, and then turning the hands towards the knees now. Still upside down so the knuckles are on the floor. Just go up and down. Your hands are right in front of your knees, up and down. Good. So now the wrists are feeling good. We're gonna come into plank pose. So have your hands shoulder width apart, step your right foot back, straight line with the right side of the body, and then step the left. Straighten your knees, press your heels back to the wall behind you, draw your belly in, and breathe. Nice, spread your toes. So if crow pose is really challenging and this is too much, lower the knees. Still keep a straight line with your hips. Don't drop the hips. Keep a straight line between your shoulders and your knees so the belly's engaged. Nice. Take one more breath here. And then exhale back to downward dog. Okay? Feet are about hip distance apart. Good. Take one more breath here. And then lower the knees, child's pose. If your back is stiff, bring your knees together. Okay, and if you want to stretch your hips more, you take your knees wider apart. Okay, we'll come back up, back to your plank. Okay, so in plank pose, preparing for crow, you're going to bend your right knee and draw it towards your nose. Okay, inhale as you take it back out. Exhale, bend your right knee and tap your right elbow or your right tricep, your upper arm. Okay, exhale as you take it back out. Switch sides. Inhale, as you exhale, bend the left knee towards the nose. Exhale as you take it back out. Inhale here, then exhale, bring the left knee to the left elbow. Maybe you hold it, maybe you bring it back out. Okay, lower the knees, take a little break. Child's pose. Okay. One more inhale here, then exhale back to downward facing dog. Okay, you're going to walk your feet up towards your hands and come into a squat position. So you might take your feet about mat's distance apart, right? Bring your hands to your heart if you'd like, coming into a squat. So this might be as low as you go, keeping your heels on the floor. Some of you might have to lift your heels off the floor to lower deeper. That's fine, okay? Just finding a squat. Good. Squeeze the knees against the arms and the arms against the knees, and breathe. Okay, so we're going to do a preparation for crow pose. So if you have blocks, you can use them. If you don't have blocks, I'll first show you without blocks, crow pose, for those of you that might not have ever seen the pose. And then I'll show you ways to do it with the blocks. So watch me first. If you've never done crow, you always want to look forward so you don't roll forward. So you keep your chin lifting a little. So that helps you balance. And then you're going to shift your weight forward, bend your elbows. Knees can come up on the outer arms or on the elbows. And then we'll practice. We're going to pick one foot up and then the other foot up. And then maybe we fly and pick both feet up. All right, maybe not. So one thing to do if you're scared of falling and you have a block is to put your block in front of you and put your forehead on the block. Another thing that you can do if you're having trouble lifting into crow is have a little perch. So have a block here as a perch. And this is going to help you get into the pose if you're having trouble getting your knees up on your arms. So you would step both feet onto the block and open up the knees. And I'll show you from this angle and then from the other angle. Hands are shoulder width. My gaze is forward. I'm going to lift my hips. You don't want your bottom low. You want to lift your bottom up as high as you can. And then bring the knees onto the upper arms. Bend the elbows. Some of you might rest your head here and just look at your feet. Lift one foot up and lift the other foot up. Some of you might want to lift both feet. All right? Some of you might not lift any feet. And that's okay. All right, that's one variation where you don't have to worry about falling on your face, because people do fall in crow pose. It's quite common actually when you're learning the pose. So looking forward at me, I'm going to move this block because I don't need it, so you can see better. My hands are shoulder width apart. I'm standing on the block just to give myself a boost to get into the pose. As you bend your elbows, you don't want the elbows to go out to the sides. Think of your forearm, the place between your wrist and your elbow, as a crow's foot or crow's leg. So you don't want them to bow out. You want the elbow to stay right over the wrist. So I hug my elbows in as I bend them. I don't bend them out. And then I look forward, pick one foot up, Pick the other foot up. Maybe pick up both. Breathe. Okay. So give it a try. Remember to breathe. Remember that you don't have to do the full pose. You can just break it up into small chunks. Maybe you just stay in your squat today. This might be your practice. Okay, take another breath or two, whichever pose you're trying, whether in the full crow or another variation. All of your crows are beautiful in their own unique, diverse way. Nice. And then we'll come to seated. So finding a seated position, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together and open the knees out to the sides. Bakasana. So some of you might have your ankles in very close and the knees might be really high. Some of you might move the ankles farther away. Just make it comfortable here on your hips. Hands can be around the ankles or you could have the hands behind you. Try to keep length in the spine, relax the shoulders. Right? For me, it feels better to have my hands on my ankles. Take a few long, slow breaths here. And just feel the energy in your body. Feel how it felt to try something that might have been super scary for you. And congratulate yourself for trying. Even if you didn't make the full pose, you made some steps. Maybe tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. I told you it took me 7 years to get the pose, so keep on trying. Don't give up. Good. One more breath here. And then we'll bring the knees together. Take a little twist. Inhale, lift up your sternum, and exhale, twist to your right. Draw the shoulders down, lift the heart. You could lift the arm and have the hands fingering out. Nice. One more breath here. And then come back to center. Inhale, exhale, twist to the other side. Bend the elbow if you'd like. Squeeze the knees together. Good. And then come back to center. Take one more pose that's a little bit challenging is boat pose Savasana. So if you'd like, you could put a block in between your thighs if you have one and sit up tall. Okay, and then maybe you lift your hands up, palms of the hands facing up. Try not to round the back, so think of lifting your sternum up and breathe. Some of you might stay right here. Some of you might lift your left shin, and some of you might lift both shins. Okay, some of you might alternate one shin with the other shin, and some of you might lift both. Okay, breathe. One more breath here, sitting up tall. Some of you might straighten the knees. This is it for me today. And then release. We're going to lie on our backs. So come down slowly, one vertebrae at a time. Draw your knees into your chest and rock side to side. Eventually taking the knees over to the left side, making your arms in a low T. Maybe turn your head over your right shoulder, relax the shoulders. Take a long, slow inhale, fill the lungs completely. Let the rib cage expand as you breathe. Exhale, sighing it out. Inhale, bring the knees back to center. Exhale, over to the other side. Maybe turning your head away from your knees, only if it feels okay on your neck and your shoulders. Again, feel the lungs expanding, the rib cage expanding with the breath. Take one more full breath here. Exhale as you bring your knees back to center. And then we'll prepare for Savasana. So you can walk your feet out. Take the legs straight if you'd like, or you can keep the knees bent. Move your shoulders away from your ears. Turn the palms of the hands up. If you'd like to, before you start your Savasana, you can flex your feet, spread your toes, make fists with your hands, and squeeze your face, even wrinkling up your nose, right? Tighten the muscles. Take an inhale with all the muscles tight that you can squeeze, and then exhale, release. Just let the feet flop out to the sides. Let the fingers curl naturally. You're going to stay in Savasana. I'm just going to get up so I can read a little quote for you while you're in your Savasana. So as you're lying there, you can have your eyes open or closed, however you feel most comfortable. Notice how your body feels from the practice that we did today, and bring your attention to your breath. Breathing in and out of the nose. You could do a little bit of the rectangle breathing that we did at the beginning of class, focusing on lengthening your exhalation. So remember, the sides of the rectangle were short. Those were the inhales. And the exhales were the long sides of the rectangle. So if you'd like to practice that for a minute or so in your mind, you can do that. And then just go to normal breathing for Savasana, not controlling the breath. And I'll read a little story for you. It's from a man named George R.R. Martin. "I can't fly," Bran said. "I can't. I can't." How do you know? "Have you tried?" The voice was high and thin. Bran looked around to see where it was coming from. A crow was spiraling down with him, just out of touch, following him as he fell. "Help me," he said. "I'm trying," the crow replied. The crow took to the air and flapped around Bran's hand. "You have wings," Bran pointed out. "Maybe you do too." Bran felt along his shoulders, groping for feathers. "There are different kinds of wings," the crow said. Bran was falling faster than ever. The gray mists howled around him as he plunged toward the earth below. "What are you doing to me?" he asked the crow, tearful. "Teaching you how to fly." "I can't fly." "You're flying right now." "I'm falling." "Every flight begins with a fall," the crow said. "Look down." So as you're resting in your Savasana, just taking a few moments to reflect on how your practice was today. Maybe celebrating that you tried something that was super scary. Maybe just being happy to share the strength building with your other classmates. And maybe the big success was letting go of judgment and not comparing yourself with the person next to you. Taking a few more breaths here in Savasana. Really focusing on the exhalation. On your next exhale, you can bend your knees and slowly roll to your right side, eventually coming up to seated, how we started class, in a comfortable cross-legged position. Take a deep breath here. Feel the breath against your thumbs, against the knuckles that are lifting your sternum up. Thank you for practicing with me here on the Art of Yoga YouTube channel. Thank you for showing up. The light within me sees and honors the light within you. Namaste.